Um, Hi, Heather. I was wondering if you didn't have a date already. Well, I guess I was just wondering if you'd like to go to the prom with me. I thought my mom and I could pick you up around 5, and we could go out to eat first. Oh, we're on a diet. Oh, okay. Oh, you're gonna diet. Oh, really? What color is it now? Well, we don't have to go out to eat then. I could pick you up, or my mom and I could pick you up around 6 instead. 6:30? 6:45? 6:46? 6:47? What time do you want to go to the prom with me then? When hell freezes over? Is that Central Time or Mountain? This has been a reenactment of Insane Mike asking a girl to prom his senior year. And we're going to the prom here on Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Attention planet Earth and beyond. Stay tuned for Attack of the Killer Podcast. 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 Yay.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Attack of the Killer Podcast High. Enchantment Under the Sea Dance Prom. The theme and the wonderful decorations are done by our prom committee. We'll meet them a little later on here in a minute. But first, this year's prom is sponsored by the fine folks at Shudder. Shudder, the Netflix of horror. As a gift to all you graduating seniors, you all get a free month of Shudder. You get a free month, and you get a free month, and you get a free month. Just enter the promo code AotKP and start with your first free month of streaming service that has something for every horror fan of all tastes. This is Attack of the Killer Podcast High's 211th prom, and boy, oh boy, it's going to be a great one. For you freshmen and new students who have never been to an Attack of the Killer Podcast High prom, this is how it works. This podcast, is a horror movie podcast where a group of friends get together, pick a topic, talk about horror films related to that topic. Now, it's an open and free conversation, so there's going to be spoilers. Now, if you came to prom without a date, or your date has ditched you for her boyfriend, and you're stuck hanging out over in the corner, it doesn't have to be that way for you. It is so much easier to be one of the cool kids here at Attack of the Killer Podcast High than any other school. All you have to do is to become a supporter of the show, and you can do that by going to jointheattackers.com. Trust me when I say your high school life is so much easier when you're one of the cool kids. You also get many perks of being a cool kid. You get to sit anywhere you want in the cafeteria at lunchtime. You get bonus episodes and special videos, and you even get excused from PE class. Now, again, go to jointheattackers.com and find out how to be one of those cool kids. And now, as I promised, it's time to introduce you to your prom committee. Please welcome your king and queen of prom, Jason.
Hey, what? I don't get... All I do know is that your intro was way too accurate. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening.
It was. He took prunes to prom because he couldn't find a date. Tad.
Oh my God.
Hey.
I've gotten to the point where I save the worst ones for Tad. He had pig's blood dumped on him for prom, but that was just his aftershave. Andy.
Nice. How's it going?
And our foreign exchange student, all the way from Customers Also Watched, Erica.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Welcome to the show. Erica, why don't you tell everybody out there a little bit about your show?
So Customers Also Watched is a movie podcast specifically about movies that are on Amazon Prime. So I started with one movie that was on my personal watch list, and every episode I have to pick a movie that is on the suggested list of movies, Customers Also Watch list. So it's been a unbroken chain of movies following that list for about 40 plus episodes so far.
Cool.
And it's an awesome show. I love the concept, and I really
Great
enjoy
concept.
it. And Jason and I got to be on an episode too.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Maybe your best one. I'm just
I
saying.
think
it's
so.
possible.
I mean, I'm not biased, but probably.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
So Customers Also Watched can be heard on our podcast network, the Prescribed Films Podcast Network. So check out Erica's show and so many more at thepfpn.com. And now it's time to turn it over to Tad Carlos Fresco Good and his segment, What We Watched.
Okay, we're going to go right into what we watched, where we go around the room and discuss what we've watched in the last couple weeks. Doesn't have to be horror, can be anything. And I'm going to go with Andy first. Andy, what did you watch?
I didn't have a lot because I've been watching the series Hollywood, which I think is friggin' brilliant. The wife and I are down to the last episode, and I think you talked about it in the last episode. It's just about this racially overtoned movie that's being filmed in, I think, what is it, the 40s, I think? And it just takes place in Hollywood, and all the controversy that surrounded it, and the characters are really cool. I mean, particularly for Jim Parsons' character, a guy by the name of Henry Sullivan, I think, and he's this agent, and it's such a huge departure from Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. I mean, it's like night and day, and it's just awesome anytime he's on the screen. So I highly recommend that. That's on Netflix. And I also watched a movie called Charlie Says, which was directed by Mary Herron and written by Guinevere Turner, who are the two women that are responsible for bringing American Psycho to the screen. And it's basically it's the true story of the three Manson women, but it takes place like after they're about a year or two in jail. Once they start to realize how full of shit Charlie Manson was, which, should have been by all realistic standards, a fucking foregone conclusion that this guy was fucking batshit crazy. But this woman who helps them, who she's kind of like she just helps out at the prison, and she helps other women, develop skills and everything. She eventually gives them their identities back, so they can be, at least productive, within the penal system. And it's actually, it's more, I mean, there is a lot of, crazy stuff, because it flashes back between, the present day that they're in jail and, their time out on the ranch, and it shows a lot of the crazy stuff, but it doesn't really dive too deep into like, the Sharon Tate and the LaBianca killings, but there's a little bit of that, but it's not bad. And then probably the other thing I watched was a documentary called "The Kid Stays in the Picture," which is it's the story about Robert Evans and how he basically he was plucked off the street to become this actor. I'd say probably in the mid to late 50s, and he eventually became like the studio head of Paramount when they were kind of in the gutter, and he just basically, he brought them Love Story, he brought them The Godfather, he brought them Chinatown, and he said while they were in ninth place, he brought them to a first place studio within a couple of years. And then, of course, it, addresses his downfall, which would be cocaine. And then he was in a mental asylum for a while, and he discusses his relationship with Jack Nicholson. And then he eventually gets back into the studio, and then he produces films like The Saint and Sliver and stuff like that, like, later on in his career. I think he has since passed away, but it's like a rise and fall and rise story about this, studio head that's probably responsible for probably some of the best movies to come out of the 1970s. So I highly recommend that too. And that's pretty much all I watched.
Excellent. Well, I guess I will jump over to Mike. What have you watched?
Well, first of all, going back and watching some films I haven't watched in a while. Brandy and we watched Sleepaway Camp 2 again. Love that movie. Of course, she had to sit there and listen to me go through and talk about how I've got the cool collection because it was the recalled first aid kit box.
I have that one too.
Nice.
I had the second one. You guys suck.
And then we also rewatched Odd Thomas, which that was awesome because I hadn't seen that in forever, and I've only ever seen it, I think, one time before, So it was great revisiting that. Forgotten so much, but great revisiting it. So that was fun. Of course, Last Drive-In. I wasn't gonna bring up the Last Drive-In because we do every time, but I just want to say that I feel like I had a hell of a lot more fun this last time than I have in previous ones because I was following Joe Lynch's tweets during the showing of Mayhem, and it was freaking amazing. My favorite line was those who can't have second-rate B-movie host shows.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It was great back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
People were taking it serious. They're like, "Fuck this guy! He's talking shit on Joe Bob," and they didn't get that. It was like a joke back and forth.
Yeah, I'll admit I was a little nervous because I know that even when it's not his movie, Joe Lynch is watching and he's tweeting about it. He does every week, and then when it's like, oh, it's Mayhem, and I didn't get home in time for the beginning. I kind of came in like right about when everything started going ape shit. And so I'm like, oh, let's see what's going on with Twitter with Joe then. And then like the first one I read was like something about fuck you, Joe Bob or something like that. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm thinking to myself, is this real? I know like Joe's sense of humor, especially when he's talking to people that he knows, can be rather crass and blunt. So I didn't know. I wasn't quite sure. So I scrolled from the beginning and just read everything. And I love right there at the very end, like Joe Bob replying back to one of the things that Joe Lynch had said and told him to fuck off to or whatever. And that's kind of where it was like, oh, this is just fun back and forth. But yeah, that just made watching the movie awesome. And I love Mayhem as it is, but that was fun. Anyway, I also watched that new Fangoria Presents film, that movie Porno.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that.
Oh, I heard it was okay.
No. It I don't know, man. Like, I didn't know if it was intentional, like for humor or what. But everybody's like talking religious in it, like they're talking about God and stuff like that, and all these religious aspects of everything, and and the fact that the movie's called Porno and it really has nothing to do with porno.
Right, the concept sounded great, and then it just sounded like it had a terrible name.
It just
the wrong name.
It kind of reminds me of both our film Demonica and Popcorn.
Yeah.
Only like watered down of both.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the idea, because they find this film reel that apparently has this succubus trapped in it. So when they play the movie back, it releases the succubus, and she's loose in the theater, and she's I don't want to say killing them off one by one because pretty much everybody just lives. Spoilers, sorry. But
that old story, yeah.
yeah, right. And after, because I'm thinking like the film reel is going to be a porno film, and they're calling it pornographic and stuff, but really it's like this woman. She takes off this robe, she's naked, and then she gets blood flung on her. She's covered in blood, and that's it. Like there's no simulated sex, there's nothing, and I'm like, how can you call that a porno? I mean, it really sounded like a super religious group who would classify like a horror movie or whatever that film reel would be, just because there's some nudity in it and some weirdo images, and that makes it pornographic. So I don't know. I doubt, especially being presented by Fangoria, that it's some kind of like hidden propaganda message. But it kind of felt that way because, like the guy who runs the movie theater, one of the opening scenes of the movie is all the employees of the movie theater before they open up that night are in a circle praying to God for having a successful night. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Tad does that all the time at his movie theater.
Yep.
So yeah, so it didn't, and it's just another hour of just them running from room to room, running away from the succubus, trying to find the succubus, running away from the succubus again. And I don't know, other than some cool movie posters that you see when the succubus is taken over to the theater, because they had this like sweet full-sized Orgy of the Dead poster in one scene. But other than that, yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I was really looking forward to that one. And then the last thing I watched, I just watched today a movie from 2014, a New Zealand film called I Survived the Zombie Apocalypse. Now, this one is a lot of fun. It was on Tubi, and right now they are suggesting like every zombie movie under the sun to me. Like it's all zombie movies. In the comedy section, it's all zombie movies. In the horror section, it's all zombie movies. So I'm like, okay, what am I gonna attempt to watch without getting burned?
It could be worse. It could be Rob zombie movies.
That's a little harsh.
That's truthful.
Anyway, so I landed on this one because the premise sounded cool. Basically, these people are making a zombie movie, and then a real zombie apocalypse happens. And then I watched the trailer, and it looked really funny, and it's a New Zealand film, so it's got that style of humor to it as well. And it ended up being a lot of fun, so I highly recommend it. Basically, this PA, or as I guess they refer to him in New Zealand as runners, his first day on the set, and he's this wannabe like filmmaker himself, just graduated from film school, has the script. He's trying to get everybody on set to read the script, and you have all the stereotypes of like, the asshole director, the diva, scream queen, the egocentric leading man, and and then eventually a zombie outbreak happens. My favorite character, and I love it for so many reasons, but the prop master is this like he's like the one American on the set, and he's this gun-toting, overweight, hillbilly, shoot first, ask questions later type guy. And I just love how we as Americans are stereotyped in this New Zealand film as this guy. I love that. I'm giddy about that. But this character was just hilarious because when the zombie outbreak happens, he's ready, and he's already got all these real guns on his truck, and everybody's hiding out in the back of his truck, and he's getting shit ready to go out and fight the zombies. And then he has his little montage of like, strapping on his guns, putting on a headband. Then he goes to button up his vest, but he can't get it over his belly to button it up all the way. And that lasts like about a minute of him trying to button it up. And then he's handing out guns to the others, and he gives like all the guys guns, and he gives this one girl like an axe or something. And she's like, and this was my favorite line of the movie. How come I don't get a gun? When he replies, how come I don't get a vagina?
This sounds like it's right up your alley.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it's totally. And so they get off the truck and he's all ready to go, and he's got like these machine guns and he's blasting away, but they recoil and they flip up and he blows his own head off. He lasts like 5 seconds outside the truck. It's freaking awesome. So I highly recommend it, especially for that character. But yeah, that's what I watched.
Excellent. Well, I know Jason's probably watched way too much, so I'm going to go to Erica. What have you watched recently?
I'm going to say I probably watched more than Jason because it's Junesploitation month. So for people who don't know who that is, F This Movie does a challenge every year, and they have a different category each day. Like today was 80s action. They have Italian horror. They have Fulci, cars, kids, like all these different categories. So I'm already at 20 movies for the month because I'm doing multiple movies for each category. And I'm at 445 movies for the year. So I think I got Jason beat.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
Man.
That's quarantine. So, so I guess some of the highlights, I'll stick to like the horror movies that I've watched. The movie that I watched for the cars category was interesting. It was called Ferret Vampire, or Ferrat. Rather, Ferat. It's a film from Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, but it was Czechoslovakia at the time. And it's about a car that runs on human blood.
Of course.
That was fun.
Oh, I've heard that concept before, but not the title.
Yeah. It's on YouTube. So you can watch it there. Then for the revenge category, I did Last House on the Beach, which is an Italian knockoff of Left. And it is not for everyone. It is nasty. So just be warned.
I don't know that one either. And I love my Italian ripoff movies too.
What's her name? Florinda Balkan is in it. So,
Really? Wow.
and she plays a nun with some girls at the house whose house gets invaded by some criminals. But it takes a while to kind of get there, but yeah, the end is oof, is all I'll say. Then I watched Revenge of the Dead, aka Zedder, Pupi Avatis. He did The House with Laughing Windows, and 1983, and that was really good too. I rewatched The Black Cat, Fulci's, for animals category. I actually did 2 for that, and I also did Tiger by the Tail, which has Christopher George and Charo in it. This is random.
Wait for Andy to do a Charo impression.
No, I don't know.
Oh,
No. Let's see. I did 3 movies for Jackie Chan, and then let's see. Yesterday was A Free Space, so I did a Japanese horror movie from 1986 called Entrails of a Beautiful Woman. Oh, someone knows who this one?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know that one. I had it, and it's I used to have it, and its sister film,
Entrails of a Virgin. Yeah.
On DVD.
Yeah. This one is definitely not for anyone out there. So it's about a woman who is tortured and is injected with a drug that turns her into a giant penis monster, and then she takes revenge on them. So it's for
right now.
Yeah, so I think the only other thing I did like before Junesploitation started was I was like, I got to make room for some more movies and get rid of some stuff that I'm never going to rewatch. And so I grabbed 3 straight-to-video Lance Henriksen movies, and I think I'm going to be off of those movies for a very long time because that was painful.
Yeah. And that sounds like the greatest month ever.
What is
kind of
the
jealous. I'm gonna have to.
So we've got Last House on the Beach, and then what is the name of the last one? the
Entrails of a Beautiful Woman.
Entrails of a Beautiful Woman. Who?
Yeah,
The penis monster.
Penis monster one.
Penis, my God.
But you got to do a double. You got to do double feature with it in Trails of a Virgin, though. And Trails of a Virgin has a scene where this woman masturbates with the hand of a severed arm.
Yep.
You're really selling it.
We've all been
I know,
there.
right?
We've all been there.
Wow.
So, does that conclude what you've watched? I mean, I don't know how you can top that, but
I don't want to go too deep into other stuff that I've watched, so I'll just leave it on Entrails of a Beautiful Woman.
The rest of it's probably on the dark web. My God.
I mean, I have to use like placeholders on Letterboxd for a lot of the stuff that I watch because it's not even on Letterboxd. So.
oh well, Jason, I wouldn't want to follow that. But what have you watched?
Oh man. Well, since I'll just start listing all mine now. I was gonna highlight it, but no, I will still. Of course, there was Dead Heat and Cannibal Holocaust. That was a really fun night.
Yeah,
and
I had never seen Dead Heat before, so that was the first time for me.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's so good.
It's perfect for
Yeah.
Joe Bob. Like I love that he's been doing like one movie I know and love every week, and then one that I've never seen. It's been working out perfect for me.
Especially when he showed Troma's War, right?
I said that last time. I really liked him and Lloyd talking. I didn't care for the movie. Like I absolutely loved seeing those two or listening to those two just talk. That was great, but didn't care for the movie.
I just know from the minute I got to Tina's Friday night, I'm like, I started warming her up. I'm like, there's the second movie is going to be tough. And I kept bringing it up. I kept trying to warn her, and it's a rite of passage, sweetie. You can get through this.
Did you watch all Cannibal Holocaust together?
Yeah.
Nice.
She made it through the whole thing. And she actually had and it was a good thing. I mean, she missed one of the animal things, the worst one, the turtle one.
The turtle.
She was getting some laundry, and I'm like, you missed the worst one, so that's good. But she did it the whole thing, and she won't be watching it again, I don't think.
Yeah, I could do without watching it again, but I was just sort of excited to hear Joe Bob talk about it.
For sure. And then let's see what else. I'll skip over the non-horror stuff. Mayhem, and it was the first time I'd seen Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Me too.
That's a movie.
I enjoyed it.
It's not. It was cool. It was cool
It's
for
awesome.
an experimental film, which is what it was. But I'll never watch it again. But what I was excited to watch is Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street documentary.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I did.
We almost watched that last night.
Yeah, it's the doc on Shudder about Mark Patton and his adventures to and from Elm Street 2. And it was great. It was really great. And definitely recommend it. It's on Shudder. Then I watched the did you have a question? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I saw that at Fantastic Fest in September, that documentary. And Mark Patton was there and did a Q&A afterwards.
Awesome.
And he's so rad because most people who go there to promote their movies show up for like day of or the 2 days that it's screening. He stayed for the whole thing and was meeting fans and like getting to people that were waiting and like waiting in line to see if there were empty seats, if they could buy a ticket to get in. Like he was like getting all these people in, and he's just a great person.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's cool. Then I watched 1960s Burt I. Gordon's Tormented.
Oh,
Yeah.
You watched it with riff tracks.
This
It
bit
was-
again.
It was MST3K, but it was
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You do this to me every fucking time. Like I get so excited. I'm like, oh, you watched something cool, and it's
I
it's
still
the riff
did
track.
watch something cool.
That's
It-
one of my
was
favorite
just
Burt I.
better.
Gordon movies too. By the way, it's one of my favorite ones. Of his.
That?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It was cool. Then I finally watched The Hunt, and that was
Ooh, yeah.
fantastic.
Way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Careful.
There's just. I guess the thing I want to say about it is kind of a spoiler, but too many people die. That was hard. Anyway.
Yeah, but the most important one survives.
Debatable. And
what?
I watched on Hulu. I watched this one because I thought it reminded me of Flyboy. It's a little comedy, and it's about paranormal investigation called Ghost Team, and it stars John Heder and Justin Long.
Yeah, I saw that on
David
your
Crow.
letterbox, and it piqued my interest.
Yeah, it's about this team that wants to be something in life. They want to do something, and there's this fake TV show that's looking for a new member, and if they they make a tape and turn it in, maybe he can get on. And then like he makes this team of all his reject friends that are all crazy and weird. And Justin Long it might be his funniest. I don't know. He's really funny in it. I think the movie as a whole, the comedy came out a little too dry, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It was still good. It was still really funny and turned out to be pretty cool. And then lastly, I watched the 2020 film that I was so excited to see because Kevin James had a super sweet beard and was a bad guy called Becky.
Yeah, I watched that last night.
Yeah, I almost clicked on that one too. It looked interesting.
We almost went to the drive-in last night to see it.
Really?
It was playing with The Hunt.
Oh man,
Oh,
that's
wow.
a good combo. Yeah, like I said, Kevin James is a bad guy. Joel McHale's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty rad. Very Last House on the Left meets Home Alone.
Oh wow, interesting.
And it, what I loved. I was really happy to see that Robert Maylett had a really good sized role in it. He's that.
Is that a
giant,
pun? He had a good size role.
He's a large man.
All of his roles are big roles.
That's true. But he had a bunch of lines. He was a really cool part. It was really great.
His voice is even huge. It's just that super, super low.
Yeah, and Becky herself did a great job and she acted her ass off, and definitely recommend it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, who would have thought Paul Blart was a white supremacist? But
oh man,
he's a cop, so not that surprising.
That's true.
Oh,
but oh boy, I'll just pass this back on to you. What'd you watch, Dad?
I haven't watched a whole lot because I've been busy with other stuff, but I really, like you said, I loved Dead Heat. That was a lot of fun. That was like bad fun, which is always fun on Joe Bob. Tetsuo, the Iron Man, I loved that. I thought that was really cool and unique. Loved experimental stuff, and it was short. It was like an hour long, so that's always a plus. And I also watched Becky. I thought that was pretty rad and violent, and can't wait to see what they do next. And then the only other thing I really watched was a Vice documentary called Bernie Blackout, and that made me more mad than anything. So that was a big horror picture. I knew everything going into it, but just to relive it was a little painful. But haven't watched a whole lot of horror outside of Joe Bob, so yeah, that's what I've watched.
all right, cool. Well, I guess it's time to get at our topic at hand. Oh no, wait! It's time for Insane's Games. That's right. It's time for Insane's Games with your host, Insane Mike. That's me. And the game we're going to play this time, if you couldn't guess from the music, we are playing The Vincent Price is Right. So, how the game is played. These are all these questions have to do with Vincent Price, obviously, and they're all number based. And just like The Price is Right, person with the closest answer without going over wins. So it'll be things like film budgets or grosses or stuff like that. So,
Oh my.
yeah. So, the first question is the box office take home for House of Wax from 1953. What was the box office totals for House of Wax from 1953? Tad, what's your guess?
$1, Bob.
Oh.
$1. Andy, what about you?
I'm gonna say 75,000. Man, I don't know.
Okay.
Oh man.
Erica.
$2.5 million.
All right. And Jason.
So I'm not going to remember the rules, so I just can't go over.
Closest to the actual answer wins, but you cannot go over.
And the highest was 25, 2.5
million.
then 2.6 million.
Okay.
Because my original guess, if you asked me first, was going to be way more than that. But okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so the the correct answer is 23,750,000. So Andy is the winner with 75,000.
What?
You said 2.6, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that's over.
Oh, I thought you said
26
million.
23,750,000.
Wait.
What?
What do you?
So Jason would win.
I won.
Yeah, Jason won.
Oh yeah, you're right. I was thinking 26 million. Sorry.
My original guess was going to be 17, but no.
Yeah, so Jason won that one.
Okay. Yeah, this
All
game's
right.
awesome. Suddenly.
All right. So the number of Vincent Price's acting credits.
Oh my gosh.
Tad.
147.
Okay. Andy.
Oh, okay. 157.
Okay. Erica.
Jason's going to snipe me again, no matter what I do.
Yeah, go high, go low. It's up to you.
I have to go first every time, so
That's true, yeah.
Maybe
Isn't
I'll
it supposed to
maybe
alternate?
I'll mix it up. I'll alternate after this.
All right. 151.
51. And Jason?
1.
you piece of shit. You piece of shit.
He has 1 acting credit. Bob, what's the answer?
The answer is to spade and neuter your pets.
Oh.
The answer is 206.
Oh, damn.
So Andy
Wow.
won that
Andy,
one.
good.
Nice.
Good job.
All right.
Should have went over. That's a lot of credits. Oh.
So the next one is the film budget for Last Man on Earth from 1964. So we'll start with Andy.
I'm gonna say 60,000.
Okay. Erica?
86,000.
86. Okay. Jason?
61,000.
61. And Tad?
48,000.
48,000. Let's see. It would be Erica on this one because it was 300,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Way more than it shows on screen.
Ah.
I just think of like a sandwich was like 4 pennies back then. So
Right. Film budgets were nothing.
All right. So let's stick with budgets and we'll do this next one. The budget of Michael Jackson's Thriller music video.
Oh, Christ.
Well, Erica.
1.8 million.
It's a good guess.
Yes, Jason.
Oh, good. 2 million.
Okay. Tad.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go with something ridiculous. I'm just gonna go high, like 100 million.
Holy shit! You know it's a music video, right?
Oh yeah, but it's Michael Jackson, dude. He
Michael
owned the
Jackson.
Elephant Man's bones. There's no price.
Did they perform like plastic surgery on set for Michael Jackson? For that kind of- Christ, I'm gonna say 2.3 million.
2.3 million, and no one got that one because it was. Wait, let me make sure. Yeah, Erica was the closest with her 1.8 because it was 1.1 million.
Oh.
Yeah, so no one got that one. This will be the last one.
I was really close though.
You were pretty.
Yeah.
You were close. You were close. This one's for the win. Whoever
Yeah.
gets this one.
Oh, shut up. Makeup rules.
The worldwide gross box office for Edward Scissorhands. Let's see, who hasn't gone first?
I don't
Me.
think I've gone first.
okay.
I don't think I
Erica,
have
I
either.
mean, not me.
All
I'll
right,
go
Erica.
first. I don't mind. 236 million.
Thanks. Okay. Jason.
I wrote down 108
$108. Dollars?
million.
Oh. Tad?
I'm gonna go low this time and say 50 million.
All right. And Andy.
$12.
Extremes.
$12.
Sold
Take
one
fi-
ticket.
Is that your final answer? Tad got that one because the correct answer was 86 million.
Tad always wins.
Well, you just made the rule that this next person wins, and I said no, but you insisted, so I guess I win.
So I guess we don't really. I mean, we have a four-way tie. Everybody got at least one answer right. So congratulations to all of you. You all are winners here at Insane's Games. Thanks for playing. Oh, and now it's time to talk about the movies for tonight's episode for Prom. So, Jason, what's the first movie we're going to talk about
The
tonight?
first movie we're going to talk about is from 1980. It's Prom Night.
There's a special night in the lives of all of us. A night we can break all the rules and make our own.
Callie, tonight it's my turn.
Prom night. For some, it's the end of innocence. For others, it's the end. Prom night. If you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. Rated R.
Now showing at a theater or drive-in near you. Check your newspaper for showtime.
Prom Night. It's this slasher movie follows a relentless killer who is out to avenge the death of a young girl who died after being bullied and teased by 4 of her classmates. Now high school students, the guilt-ridden kids have kept their involvement a secret, but when they start being murdered one by one, it's clear that someone knows the truth. Also coping with the past are members of the dead girl's family, most notably her prom queen's sister, Kim Hammond, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. This movie is basically the original I Know What You Did Last Summer. Okay. Anyway, that's Prom Night.
All
Pretty
right,
good
next. No.
Any relation to Reggie Hammond from 48 Hours?
It's directed by Paul Lynch. He's
My
done
least
things.
favorite Lynch.
That's possible. Yep.
I like Kelly Lynch.
What's happening?
Sorry.
Jason, what'd you think of Prom Night?
I like
Well,
David Lynch.
I think it's fine.
Dorothy Lynch.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's just sort of there.
It's just I don't know. It's clunky and I don't know.
I don't know what version I
Somebody
watched,
help
but
me.
everything
Yeah.
was damn dark. Everything just
Was
seemed like really like saturated and everything.
I
It's
watched
just
it
like,
on
Where'd you watch
Shudder.
it then?
I had it on a
Andy?
DVD.
Oh, yeah,
the
maybe-
DVD. It hasn't had a nice restoration until it finally got the Blu-ray. Because I thought the complete opposite. Because I watched this on Shudder, and I'm assuming they got it from the Blu-ray transfer because
Okay.
I've never seen this movie look so good. Like it's always been like every time I've ever seen it, from VHS to DVD, it's always projected dark. Like the van scene, I was never able to tell what the van scene was, what happened in that van scene. And this time I'm like, oh yeah, they had sex and then died. So I was
Typical
pretty
slasher.
impressed on how much they cleaned it up.
Here's a sentence I've never said before. I thought maybe Leslie Nielsen was underused.
He's always underused.
That's not
Watch your
true.
mouth.
There's probably too much Leslie Nielsen in this movie, but
Actually,
Just
there was
kidding.
a scene. There was some scenes cut that had more Leslie Nielsen in it, and the movie would have been better if those scenes were left in.
You might say so.
In all honesty, guys, I mean, I kind of had a hard time getting through this one. I love the sequels to this, but this one's just like to me, this is like a paint by numbers Friday the 13th ripoff with like a rapey Black Christmas voice, thrown in for good measure.
That's a good analogy. It's like a paint by numbers by somebody who's never touched paint or a paintbrush before. I'd have no frame of reference what paintings look like.
Yeah,
It's like you were like, Mom, can I have a slasher? And she's like, we have a slasher at home, and it's Prom Night. It's like a hamburger on white bread. It just sucks.
Yeah,
It's not as good. Like, I like the stuff there, like
Could be
it's
so much better.
it's still a burger and it has some good ingredients like Jamie Lee Curtis, but it just out of everything that she did in her sort of run as a scream queen, this one, at the bottom of that list for sure.
this is the generic cereal for Fruit Loops. This is like Tutti Fruities.
The great
Tutti
value.
Fruities actually, this is our family. This is our family slasher.
It feels good to hear you guys say this because I mean the franchise as a whole, I'm with Andy. I love this franchise. This is a rare case. I cannot think of another franchise where I like the other movies in the series way more than the original.
The Purge.
Absolutely.
I like the original
I like the
Purge.
first two.
But this movie's overall pretty generic. You don't see all the kills happen off screen. Whether they just are not seen or they're cropped out. There's no cool mask. There's no cool weapons, and a really lackluster, uneventful twist ending. So watching it this time, I just honestly cannot understand how come this one has always stood out amongst those early 80s slashers.
I
Is
mean,
it
you
just
got
because of Jamie Lee Curtis and American Treasure Leslie Nielsen?
I would assume so because I mean, your heavy is just a glorified cat burglar with an axe.
Yeah, he's just wearing a ski mask. I
Yeah.
mean, they bedazzled it with some glitter, so that was nice.
And he's awfully dainty. Is that just me? I don't.
When you see him, even like you know, I mean, and you don't always have to see the killer. If Italian Giallo taught us anything, you don't see the killer till the end of the movie anyway. But still, like, I don't know. I mean,
The poster's
first of all,
cool.
Posters.
Yeah.
cool.
maybe that's what it is. The poster's classic.
I've got
Maybe
the
also the
poster.
fact that it's a Canadian horror film, and
That makes a
kinda
lot of
one of the-
sense. I didn't know that. That makes sense.
the whole franchise is Canadian.
I don't know how to segue this, but I think Erica believes there's some redeeming qualities to this film.
Oh, there's one.
What?
But I mean, this movie is just overall. And the only reason it's not even really a redeeming quality, it's just personal preference, like child murder. And that's it. So
She's pro child murder.
yeah, I mean, but it shoots its load like right off the bat. It's like child murder right up front. And so then the rest of the movie, I'm sitting there watching an hour of prom planning and then movie.
Yeah.
It's just there for me. I'm with you guys. I like, well, not the whole series. I like 2 a lot. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think 3's okay for me. It's just, it leans way too far into the comedy for me. And I think 4 is god awful, but 2 I think is fantastic.
Yeah,
But one just
absolutely.
doesn't hold up. Like, 1 is like, I watched it as a teenager, and just rewatching it, it just doesn't. It's not one that I'm ever going to reach for again.
It's up there with Happy Birthday to Me as one that is cool on paper, has a cool poster, has a cool trailer, but the movie itself is like blah.
Yeah.
Which again just makes it so weird that this one has stood out amongst a lot of those other films like Happy Birthday to Me or The Burning or whatever.
And
I don't get it.
God bless Jamie Lee Curtis, because, you know, I love her to death, you know, but her disco dancing, the way she's turning her head, it looks like she's getting her mugshot profile taken, you know. Just some of her dance moves are just pretty damn funny.
This movie also had the actress that played Wendy is Anne Marie Martin, and I know her and love her from the 80s cop comedy Sledgehammer as Dory DeRoe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She was also in The Boogans and apparently Halloween 2, but when she was on Sledgehammer, I kind of had a crush on her. So, also in my notes, Jamie Lee Curtis, her tennis skirt when she was playing tennis was so short you could almost see her penis.
Oh, come on.
Aw.
What?
Really?
Come on.
What?
You can hear everybody clicking off this episode.
That was a good run, guys. It was a really good run. We got 211 episodes. Oh.
Thanks, fearless leader.
You're welcome.
Uh,
I knew that joke was going to get the scent, but I did it anyway. Interesting facts about this movie. The actor Brock Sampson is the only actor who appeared in all 4 Prom Night movies.
lucky.
And Hamilton High School is the school that's featured in all of the Prom Night movies as well.
He's like
Although
the Eugene
lucky.
Levy of the Prom Night
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah, he totally is. I also have in my notes composer Paul Zaza, who did the score, also wrote all the disco songs, and he wrote all the disco songs in only 5 days, which is, I assume, the length of time it takes to write any disco song. So yeah, Prom Night. Are we done with Prom Night already? That was
I
quick.
think we are.
Jesus.
Speaking of descent. Oh, man.
All right, fine. I won't talk anymore. I'm going to turn it over to Tad for the second movie.
All right, our second movie is a 2009 movie, The Loved Ones.
Will you go to the dance with me?
I'm done with Holly. Guess who asked me to the dance?
Tell me, who is she?
I'll never tell.
Love hurts.
Pretty as a picture.
Love scars. What are you looking at? Bring the hammer, Daddy.
This year's Queen of the Dance is Lola Stone.
There he is. Love is like a flame, burns you. It boils your brains and turns you into one of them.
Say happy.
Happy happy. Love her. Love her.
All right. Well, the loved ones, I'm just going to read from IMDb. When Brent turns down his classmate Lola's invitation to the prom, she concocts a wildly violent plan for revenge. So this movie sort of kicks off. We get to know Brent. He is learning to drive. He gets in a car accident and I believe kills his father, which puts him and his mom in sort of a downward spiral. He's sort of the goth kid at school. Not the goth, just the angsty kid, I guess you would say. And this movie sort of flips the stereotype on the head of the guy getting rejected when asking someone to go to prom. The girl actually asks, and he turns her down, and he pays for it in a very, very violent fashion. And I love this movie. It was a blind buy for me from a local video rental store. They had the DVD for sale. I picked it up, took it home, had no idea what I was in for. And it's become one of my favorites of the last, I guess, 10 years since it's been released already. Written and directed by Sean Byrne, who also did The Devil's Candy.
Love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
That movie's awesome too.
Love that.
Yeah. So he's that's the last thing he did, but it's great you can tell now, like that I say that, like the tone is very similar, very violent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I love the colors in this one. I love the cinematography. The score is cool. The performances are so cool when her dad brings him home and straps him down. You get to meet Bright Eyes, I believe is what they call her. I'm assuming, is that grandma or mom or
I think
their
it's
whole
wife.
Yeah, the
I was
family
gonna say, I
died.
assume it's the mom.
I thought it was the dad's new girlfriend.
Right. I don't think
Maid.
it's her mom because the way she sort of has
Yeah.
that attitude towards her, she gets jealous. The whole family dynamic is fucked up because, she's trying on the prom dress that dad bought her and he's sort of checking out her body, gives you the creepies. Yeah, I mean, this poor kid, Brent, goes through so much. And then the side story of his friend hooking up with the goth girl and brings
amazing.
some nice funny moments to a otherwise very serious and brutal movie. I love the balance. I think that's perfect because we get a little palate cleanser right before you go right back into this kid getting drilled through the head and thrown into a pit of brainless, I wouldn't say zombies, but poor people who have also been kidnapped, I guess.
The people under the stairs kind of thing.
Yeah, and spoiler, right when you think he's finally getting saved and someone shows up looking for him, they get fucked too. But Brent finally does get some revenge on her and the family and takes out dad. And yeah, what a violent, fun ride. I love this one. You definitely feel for Brent. I don't know if you necessarily feel for her. There's times at the beginning where you sort of feel for her because she's awkward, but then you realize what length she's going to and you don't feel for her anymore and you want to watch her get fucked up. But I love this movie. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I loved it too. Second or third time I've seen it. I agree with everything you said. Tina was like, she pointed out, I'm like, Brent didn't even really be that mean to her in the beginning.
No, he wasn't.
I thought he let her down okay, it could have been way worse. But holy shit, the fucking shit he goes through, this family is so fucked up, and it's just a nonstop, like, what is gonna happen next? And I still, this time watching it, I had my least favorite part of the whole movie is when that guy, when you think he's getting out and the guy, I'll say, whoops, the guy comes to save him and doesn't. And like, that's just not needed. And that's just sad because.
But I think that is
in that pit, right?
Well, I think it is. I mean, not necessarily needed, but to me, that gave you sort of a false sense of hope, and then it's like all hope is gone when that happens, which is devastating. But it gives you those feelings, it gets you emotionally invested in this movie.
But at the same time,
it's a ride.
You look at that goth girl Mia. Not only did she's lost her brother, and now she's lost her father because of this family.
Yeah, and she was sort of fucked up in the beginning. She just
gained a really cool boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, that definitely the relationship between Mia and that other guy, that's definitely a release valve that this film needs at certain points, because it's just like it's just so intense and so brutal. You're just like, yeah, it's cringe-worthy moments, but you want to say, okay, like, when are you want to keep watching, because like, when are we going to hit a ceiling with this crazy shit? And I just
then they drill into his fucking head, and you're like, there's no way you're taking our main character and actually going through with it, and they do twice.
My favorite part of that is seeing the smoke from the drill hitting the bone.
There is no way out of this.
That little detail just made it all the more painful.
Any lobotomy stuff or shock therapy stuff, I can't deal with it. It's so hard. It's just so hard.
I love the scene where he's down in the pit and she's looking over the edge, and he grabs the handgun and shoots up at her and hits the disco ball. That's just a well shot scene. Like looking down, the angle they shot it from down in the pit, looking up at her, and she's looking down like she has no idea. And then he grabs a gun and it hits that disco ball and sheds, and it sprays the light everywhere. It's just a beautiful shot. Well done.
This is why you don't spoil your kids.
This
movie.
And the poor guy gets, after finally getting out of that chair, after all that shit, drilled into his head, he's got knives, pounded into his, and then he's got to, thank God she threw that hammer down at him, because he would, he had to fight off all those guys trying to eat him. Yeah, my God.
Relentless.
Yeah, and the other lesson you learn is take the goth chick to prom, right?
Absolutely.
That's clearly always ask the girl. Erica, this movie took place after 1980, so
I know, God.
What'd you think? What'd you think?
This is one of the few movies of this century that I actually like.
Yes.
So
we got one, guys.
Yeah, you got one. But it does so many things effectively. Like it's not this like hyperkinetic, charged movie. It's perfectly well paced and balanced. It does like the show don't tell really well. Like the fact that Brent is a cutter, like he never has to have that conversation with like a counselor or his girlfriend or a friend. You just see the scars, you see the blade around his neck. It has so many things in it that make you uncomfortable. Like the like Mike mentioned, the smoke coming out of when he's drilling the forehead. And it's got that, that relationship that makes you not just like what's happening physically in the gore, but the relationship also makes you uncomfortable. It's got that girl with the daddy issues and the dad who's looking at his daughter the wrong way. And it's like, she's almost like, I was reminded a little bit of Toys Are Not for Children. Mike, you watched that one? Or?
No, I don't know that one.
Oh, okay. It's basically a girl with daddy issues and turns to prostitution, and I don't want to spoil it, but that movie's not for everyone, just like Toys Are Not for Children. But yeah, no, I like this was a rewatch for me. And yeah, it like I mentioned, it's just one of those few movies from this century that I like.
With writing this good, it's hard to deny. You're right.
Well, imagine like my surprise. I picked this up at Family Video. It was like $1 or something. They always do these like big DVD clearance sales, and I was like, that cover looks really cool. I had never heard of it. It was like a new release at the time, so it must have been 10 years ago when it hit DVD, or 9 years ago or so. And I took it home, not knowing a thing, not seeing a trailer, not hearing a word about it. And holy shit, man. Like, what a ride. I'm like, oh my God. And I go online and I'm telling all my horror friends, I'm like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And half of them were like, yeah, dumbass. Like, everybody knows that one. And other half of my friends,
we've been there.
Right. Now, the other friends were like, no, never heard of it. I'm like, come over. Let's watch it.
Yeah, sometimes those blind buys pay off really well.
Yeah, this was one of those.
Oh yeah, and then that just makes those movies all the more special because it was a blind buy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with everybody. Love this one. I love The Loved Ones. There's just so much going on in this movie. The moment when he's climbing the rocks, and he has that kind of like moment where he stops and
He's slipping
kinda, like,
about it.
leaning back, like you think he's going to kill himself, and maybe that's even what's going through his head. But then when the rocks slip and it becomes a reality to him, the actual death, like he fights to save himself. And that is such a, like, I think a huge character moment for him in this movie to carry on through the rest of this, rest of this film. And why he survives what happens to him, and why he fights to survive what's happening to him in this movie. But yeah, it's brutal. Like so many cool little things. Like I drew a comic back in the day. I have this character who's like my version of Batman. If Batman was same origin, but Bruce Wayne was like dirt poor, and he would use like things like chainsaws and machetes and power drills as weapons.
So sort of like Super?
What's that?
Sort of like Super, James Gunn's Super?
Oh no, my character's way more demented than his because his mask is made of human flesh, so there's a little bit of Leatherface in it too.
Okay.
So he would like beat up criminals and whatnot, obviously, and would have no remorse about killing them, but also would love to just torture them. So I wrote a scene where he's beating up and cutting up these bad guys, and like takes salt and pours salt on the wounds, and then they do it in this movie. I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
that's gnarly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Where she cuts this big, their initials and the heart and all that on his chest, like he's a fucking tree, and then just dumps salt on it. Like, that's just
his
awesome.
screams in this movie that's hard to listen to.
Scream King.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if the filmmakers were big fans of Motel Hell, because those gurgly screams after their voice boxes were destroyed really reminds me of the people with their throats cut in Motel Hell when they're buried up to their necks for Farmer Vincent's fritters. Oh, and what about, and just again with the brutality, that scene after she gets hit by the car, and then she's still trying to crawl to kill them using the knife to pull her
It
off.
reminded me of Chucky in Child's Play 2 when he has like the knife as a hand and he's melted and he's like dragging his body on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, this is just, she's relentless, and this is so brutal. And then I looked at her wrist. Did you see her hand?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
her wrist was
broken
gnarly.
at the wrist. The bones are protruding out of the top of the. Oh my god, it was awesome.
And then it went
Yeah,
into
it was
like the
bad.
longest push-in shot of the whole movie, and it just slowly fade. The music's pretty, it gets quiet, it zooms in on her, way into her face, and bam,
and then thud.
Right,
Yep.
because oh man, it's such a cool sequence.
Yes, and I'm with Tad. The colors in this movie, the color scheme, I love it. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize when it comes to cinema, don't give me those washed out colored movies where they just flush all the color out. I like bright colors and pretty things that like catch my attention, and just the nice, beautiful, colorful palette that this movie has.
I do appreciate like what Erica was saying about how subtle they sort of tell his story. Like the rock climbing thing is, not directly said. You sort of feel through his emotions that way. And same with, like his wrists and stuff. Like we learn so much about him without him really saying anything. And, we can all probably relate in some way or another to that. That he's gone through a lot of bad shit, and he's dealing with it, and like his poor mom, stuck at home, not knowing where he is, what's going on. But the dad in this, the the girl's dad is another great performance too. He's like scared of his own daughter, nervous, wants to make sure that she's, happy and spoiled and taken care of. But he just plays it so perfectly because then they're sitting at the table and she's like, who's prettier, Bright Eyes or me? And he's like, he's scared to, well, you're both pretty. And it's like, dude, Bright Eyes isn't going to attack you. You tell her she's prettier. Come on, man.
Yeah. And as much, gore and disturbing imagery is in this movie, nothing was grosser than them eating that fried chicken. Gross.
I'm right there with you. That's a pet peeve of mine. I can't watch people eat like hot wings or like meat on bones. Like, like
when the gremlins
all over their faces.
When the gremlins eat chicken in Gremlins, that's like the grossest scene of the movie.
Yeah.
That chicken in that movie looks really gross. It's like stringy and goopy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Ugh.
Yeah, so highly recommended. I already forgot. What other film did you say the filmmaker?
The Devil's Candy.
Devil's Candy, that's right.
I love that movie.
Is he done more? Because, that's 2 for 2 very solid movies.
He hasn't directed anything, and that was 2015, so he's gone 5 years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Anybody out there who has not heard of Devil's Candy, you need to check it out. I love it because I've always said I love 80s heavy metal propaganda horror movies where heavy metal's the bad guy.
Metal exploitation.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Like Trick or Treat or Black Roses. But the thing that always disturbed me about it, it's like horror movies and heavy metal were so attacked during the 80s by parents groups and religious groups and whatnot. You would think those two would merge and join together. And Devil's Candy, I think, is finally the movie I've always wanted to see representation of heavy metal in a horror film, because the heavy metal head turns out to be the hero of the movie. And at first when you watch it, you don't think it's going to go down that path. You think he's going to get like possessed and all this
tropes,
shit, but all those typical tropes. But so it was cool finally for me seeing, heavy metal being the hero. And then that's like kind of that whole role reversal thing of your stereotypes and expectations for things like metalheads or horror movie fans. So
yeah, these are two features he's written, 2 features he's directed. He hasn't done anything else. Loved Ones was his first feature he wrote and directed, and Devil's Candy was the second. He's done some shorts, but that's pretty impressive.
2 for 2.
It's 2 for 2. I would like to sit here and say I would love to see him do more, but if that's the pace he needs to do to keep putting out solid material, then by all means keep your pace. Just keep putting out good quality product.
Yep.
All right. So Andy, what's our last movie for this evening?
Our last film was released in 2008, and it's called Dance of the Dead.
I know this is last minute, but will you please go to the prom with me?
Ew, get lost, Jimmy.
You will remember tonight.
Your prom tickets!
We don't have dates to the prom.
I was gonna go, but then my date ate bad spinach.
Wow.
Come on, Steven S! You're the force, Steven! Come on! And after all this, you will remember tonight.
Did you guys hear that?
Oh, hell.
From the creative minds behind 30 Days of Night and the Grudge movies.
Why is this happening?
End of the world. God's flushing the toilet.
That was disturbing. If we don't stop those things from getting to the prom, then our world is over.
Little lady, you'll get the machete.
But I don't know how to shoot a machete.
All right, where y'all going?
To the prom to kick some zombie ass.
Who are you guys?
We're the Sci-Fi Club.
We're here to rescue you.
Dance of the Dead.
Wish it was a Corsage.
Okay. Dance of the Dead. The basic premise of this is due to this relatively small town's nuclear power plant. The dead are coming back to life, and pretty much all traditional zombie rules apply. You get bit, you turn into one. They also they kind of bridge the gap between slow zombies and fast zombies in this one, as far as I can tell. But basically, they're a lot of the townspeople who are getting infected. They're running amok, and also they all end up at the prom for some reason. But it's up to a lot of the rejects in the high school to basically go and defend and stop this zombie outbreak. You've got like the class clown, you've got the sci-fi club, you've got the stoner musicians, you've got pretty much, as far as I can tell, the town bully. All of these character archetypes that you. Basically, if you ever went to high school, you pretty much grew up with. And that's one of the aspects of this film that I actually really, really like. And it's what gives it heart, because you can identify with every single one of the characters, that are on the screen. And in typical zombie movies, I think a lot of them are just lambs led to slaughter. When somebody dies, you just say, okay, it's a zombie movie. It was bound to happen. But like when some of the characters get bumped off in this, which is inevitable, it's happened. I think it's got more of an effect. At least it did to me. I identified with the characters more, and I think that's what makes whether it's horror or sci-fi or drama. If you have good characters, that's what makes the movie. And I think I identified with all the characters in this. The coach is one of my favorite characters in the movie, even though some of the stuff that he says isn't, too, it's a little much, but oddly enough, it actually works for the character because I've known coaches like that. But some of the one-liners in this are just great. Some of the gags. By the way, but I've never fired a machete. That girl, perfectly cast as a ditzy cheerleader. But truth be told, if you watch the special features, she says, what the director said, well, you're going to be working with a machete, and she put up these two fingers like guns. She just goes bang bang, and he just goes, that's not what a machete is, honey. And so that line, I've never shot a machete, was actually put in afterwards, because that was like an actual experience between her and the director, and he loved it so much that he put it in the movie. I could talk forever, but I really, really like this film. It holds a special place in my heart because this was actually a blind buy myself. What did you guys think?
I really liked it a lot too. I right from the get-go, it was nice to. I like all zombie movies that are comedies. It seems like, any comedy horrors, it's just so much easier to have fun with. It was kind of obvious it wasn't the biggest budget thing in the world, so immediately, but I did feel that heart right away. I completely had already decided that I liked this movie and was liking it and enjoying it. And then we get to the convenience store, and I see my friend Toby Sells is the convenience store clerk, and I'm like, what is going on? That looks like Toby. And sure enough, then I jumped on the IMDb, and it's Toby. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Zombie movie. And then I looked harder, and turns out Toby and his company had done the special makeup effects and did all the zombies. And Toby was the guy who did our movie Collapse. So
Jason, got so excited he texted me. He's like, "Did you see who the convenience store clerk guy was?"
You didn't even know.
And he's like, "It was Toby," and I'm like, and I remember sitting there watching the movie thinking,
that guy looks
that guy looks like Toby, but not ever even imagining in a million years it'd be Toby.
No.
And I don't know why I didn't.
I know.
I know the guy is a makeup artist. I know he's done a lot of movies. Why wouldn't he have shown up in this movie? But I was in denial, I guess. But
yeah, and I looked into it harder and saw that it was shot in Georgia, and I knew that he lived in Georgia. So I'm like, oh, this just makes sense. That's definitely Toby. And so I reached out to him to see if he wanted to say anything about the movie, but he said he was having
some medical issues.
Having a medical thing.
Nothing too severe, but
taking some morphine. So he wasn't feeling good enough to get on to say anything, but other than he had a lot of fun. And yeah, it was so cool to see Toby because he and when we hired him to do our movie Collapse, which was the zombie movie, he was hesitant because he had been doing zombie movies like crazy. He's from Georgia, so The Walking Dead had started, and he'd worked on it and was going to be working on it, and was already kind of, you could feel he was near the end of his zombie rope, but he still did our movie because him and Mike got along really well, and so this had to be one of the movies that it looked like he probably did this movie right before he did ours, and you can just, I don't know, I decided I liked this movie before I knew Toby was in it. And then I'm like, oh, and Toby and his effects, I'm like, and I loved it even more. And it's just, Toby, I can't not like it now. And
Toby also did the Crazies remake. And
cool.
Yeah, and so I like his work. He does really good work. I'm just so happy the work he did on our movie Collapse, and he does good work. But I remember having conversations with him on the set of Collapse, and me reassuring him that I am, as far as a director goes, I am an effects man's director because I know what it's like for a director to treat his effects artist as an afterthought, or not listening to the effects artists, ideas and thoughts as well. Because, again, going back to Tom Savini, well, I guess this isn't the bonus episode, so you don't know what I'm talking about. but with Tom Savini, a lot of his effects was dependent on them being shot a certain way, and that probably goes true for most effects artists. So a director has to pay attention to that stuff. But I remember having conversations with him on set, and just him telling me stories about, doing zombie stuff. And, since they have to do a lot of zombies for a particular scene for any movie or TV show or whatever, you do your hero zombies, which is the ones that need to be right up in front of the camera. Then you've got like secondary zombies, which, the makeups are a little more rushed than the hero zombies. And then you have the background zombies that either you just slap some paint on or throw a rubber mask over. And times where he, and his art is on the line here when it gets in front of the camera, right? And, he'll tell people like these zombies are designed to be up front. These zombies are designed to be like kind of in the middle, and these zombies are designed to be to the back. They're filler. You're not supposed to get close-ups of these. These are not, the good quality stuff. And then he'll turn around and he'll see scenes being shot where the background zombies are up front, right in front of the camera. And so kind of watching this movie, I'm like, I wonder if he was talking about Dance of the Dead, because there was a few zombies, and I'm like, yeah, those look more like background zombies.
Yeah, and they kind of did what we did. It seemed like that they kind of took over a town watching the special features, and then a lot of townsfolk are used as extras, and they had a school that they used to just put everyone in and do the zombie work. And anyway, so yeah, and yes, the movie I thought was great. It was really funny. I enjoyed the kids and their play. But once I learned it was Toby, then I'm like, I'm all in on this movie. I love this movie. And it's really great to see him and his work. And I don't think we've ever said this before, but if you want to see a non-funny zombie movie that Toby worked on, our movie Collapse can be seen on Tubi, the Tubi app. But the only place you can see it. But
And
anyway,
I like the fact that there is you did see a real raunchy zombie makeout session in Dead Alive, but there's a more tasteful zombie makeout session in Dance of the Dead.
It was gross and hot. How'd they do that?
Well, I gotta say, I'm actually kind of glad that scene was there, because that couple was the couple that upset me as far as losing them.
Yep.
So I'm like,
I was surprised they both died. Like that was something in this one that sort of took a curve. Like I sort of saw him as almost a lead. So
because
you were really rooting for him.
Because even though this is a zombie film, even though this is a comedy, there's still development of characterizations in this, and storylines going on with these characters in this movie. And their storyline was one of the more ones I was invested in. Because she liked him, but she was going to go to the prom with this other guy, and she was unaware that he liked her, and then she finally figures that out, and it looks like things are going to come together, and then they both get zombified.
Yeah, and I guess I haven't done a line of the movie in a long time, but my personal favorite is 30 more minutes of the Brick Channel, all brick, all the time. That's my favorite line of the movie. And by the way, and hopefully Stephen Tracy is listening, the coach reminded me like what a old version of Stephen Tracy would be, because they look so damn similar. I'm just like, is that like Stephen in like another 20 to 30 years? This really
way too
pissed
good
off
with guns, and
this really pissed off gym teacher
saying a little
20,
too
30 years.
inappropriate.
You're being kind. Try like 5 more years.
Yeah, some of the dialogue's a little dated.
Confederate flag
now.
in the garage, and but yeah, just dropping the detonator in the potato chips, and you son of a bitch. Just
my favorite character was Kyle the bully guy. I liked him a lot.
Yeah,
they definitely hit every stereotype in high school. They had the stoner rocker guy. They had the cheerleader, the nerds. Checked everything off the list.
Yeah, I mean, I identified with. I guess for me personally, I identified with
the coach.
Well, the coach, yeah, but probably Dunn. Because I was a pizza. Well, I didn't deliver, but I made a lot of pizzas in high school, and I was the class smartass. I mean, and I had a,
and now you're the podcast dumbass.
Yeah. Well, I listen to your shit, so yeah, I must be a dumbass.
No, you're still a smartass too. So,
and I had a science teacher that fucking hated me. So, I completely identify with Dunn. But yeah, he had a girlfriend. I didn't. So,
Aww.
Now I just have a wife I drive up the wall. So
yeah, Erica's been pretty quiet. I'm a little worried.
I hate this movie.
Oh,
this is like horror comedy is my least favorite subgenre, and yeah, like this is like the opposite of what I was talking about. What I liked in The Loved Ones, it has that like super fast energy, and everything is predictable, and I get it, like yes, there's characters that were developed, and I'm invested in a couple people, and I'm with Mike, like, yeah, that one couple I was kind of like, oh, I didn't think they were going to die, but I still knew they were going to end up together. Just how they did was unexpected. But this is just one of those things where I don't remember his name. Who's the faux hawk guy who was shooting the gun all the time?
Kyle.
He,
Of course, it's Kyle.
He's a Kyle, yeah. So, yeah, he's one of our quote unquote heroes in it because he's shooting all these zombies and the people the kids are upset when he dies. And it's like, he used homophobic slurs earlier in the movie, and we as an audience are supposed to be like, oh, that's one of our heroes. And the same thing goes for the coach, who's, like you said, he's got the big fucking Confederate flag hanging. He says the same homophobic slurs. He says something like when he's going to set off the bomb, it's Hiroshima time. Like, I don't want to.
The coach reminded me of the asshole like football coach in high school that picked on every kid who had asthma and he peaked in high school.
Yeah.
And he lives, he's like terrorizes the neighborhood. Everybody hates him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did a good job. Like he is that character. He is completely hateable, but he is one of our heroes and he lives. Like he doesn't get his comeuppance. And I need that for someone like that. And and I'm on Letterboxd and I see like all these people comparing this to Return of the Living Dead and Cemetery Man and Night of the Creeps. And that's a fucking insult to me. That's that's absurd to me. The whole pop punk soundtrack for like every single transition scene was giving me a headache. Like this is not my speed. This is not my movie. Like I can see why some people would like it, but this is not the kind of movie that I would ever want to go back to. And it was funny because like I looked at Letterboxd first and I saw like, oh, a bunch of people I follow gave this 3 stars and up. And I didn't count Jason's because Jason's taste is completely opposite of mine. But like, other people I follow gave it good reviews, but I just can't with this. And so no, this is not a movie for me. I will say one nice thing about it though. One line that did make me laugh was when one of the kids got offered some weed and he said, "No thanks, I'm high on life." Like that made me giggle. I was like, because it was his delivery of it too. So I was like, it gets that. I didn't give it the worst rating on Letterboxd, but it's certainly Oh, you know what? Another nice thing I can say about it is that, and this is just to compare to something else, I started looking into like other prom horror movies aside from like the Prom Night franchise, and I was like, oh, what else is out there? And I watched this other movie. It's fairly recent too. It's 2000 something, called Prom Ride, and that one was god awful. Like that one is irredeemable. So Dance of the Dead is better than that movie for me.
Oh man, I think I almost picked that for the show.
I think the line of the kid getting offered weed and saying no, I'm high on life. That's like our motto here at Attack of the Killer Podcast.
It might be. It really might be.
Like we all we're all pretty positive about all the movies, especially Jason. Like I don't remember the last time he didn't like a movie on here.
The Boy Who Cried. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're all of us are non-drinkers, non-smokers. So I think this one,
we're the rejects that got to save all these yahoos from the zombie outbreak.
That and it's a little tough for us to say because all of us know somebody involved in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming at it definitely from a bias. And we've made that very clear. I mean, Jason right away said, as soon as he saw his friend, he's like, I'm all in. So it's hard to go in. This is a first time watch for me. It's not something I'm gonna be rewatching by any means. It wasn't. It did not offend me in any way. I wasn't angry about watching it. It reminds me of something that I would turn on in the middle of the night on a movie channel like Stars or something. It would be on at 2 a.m. and I would come in halfway through and start watching it and finish it. Easily digestible, but I think it suffers too because I'm just so over zombies, and this one doesn't do anything different with it for me.
Pretty saturated at this point.
Yeah, and that's not, maybe when it came out and I watched it, it would have been different. But now it's just, you have to really do something for me to give a shit about a zombie movie. And you know, the makeout scene was funny, and you know, I was really hoping the coach would eat shit and get killed off brutally because I hated him too. There wasn't really a whole lot of. It's like they sort of killed the only characters I remotely cared about, which bummed me out. You know, like she said, like Erica said, the bully with the faux hawk, I hated him too, and was hoping he'd get his. And I don't know if they were trying to make it like that classic story of the jerk that turns around and ends up saving them, and now you know he's redeemed or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, I didn't hate it by any means. It's just not something it's not a classic that I would pop in again.
I don't think it's poor, like by any means. Like I've seen way like worse movie, like poorly made movies. This is not poorly made. Like this is like, you know, especially for the limited budget and you know what it's shot on. It's fine, but and also like if you're bringing in a bias of knowing people involved with it and like looking at it more positively, I acknowledge I'm bringing in a bias of I don't like horror comedy. So there's very few that I can name like on one hand the ones that I like. So I bring that bias in with me. So it really has to be something special. And also
absolutely.
like Tad said, like especially being a zombie comedy horror, I'm like, oh God, okay. So it's got a lot of humps to get over for me to like it. Plus, like, you know, it's fairly recent. So it's got a lot of things to overcome for me to like it. And it's not going to get there for me.
Yeah. Horror comedy has to be one of the hardest genres to get right because you have to find the balance. I mean, low budget comedy is hard enough, but you can pull it off. But finding the balance in horror and comedy, it's, you know, there's just such a fine line where you can tip and it's either awesome or not, you know, and you can probably count on your hands how many classic, you know, horror comedies that we all know and love that are sort of beloved by the, you know, fans in general. So it's a tough genre to tackle in the first place. And then making it with zombies, I would say, you know, Return of the Living Dead and Shaun of the Dead. Those are like the two I can think of that are zombie comedy horror movies that, you know, succeed.
This is 2008 too. Yeah.
Dead Alive, yeah, but is that, I don't know, I guess it's zombie, but I don't think of it as a zombie comedy. I think of it more as I don't know. It counts, I guess.
As a
flat stick.
As a musician, I was happy to see that the band got the music, punk rock got to ward off the zombies. It got to help. That was a neat.
Yeah, that was sort of cool.
You also you might want to take in consideration with, you know, the way that this was written and some of the dialogue. Actually, you know, it's not really a, you know, some of the more derogatory stuff. It's not excusable, but I mean, this film was actually written in 1998. And it took a long time to, you know, I don't know how many rewrites that it went through. So, you know, I guess maybe people were thinking different, you know, back then. I mean, I don't know. I'm not making excuses. I mean, I'm just trying to give somewhat of an explanation as to why you may have heard some of the things that you heard that you probably, you know, didn't like. So,
yeah. I mean, it honestly, like, it takes a lot to offend me, and I'm more than willing to be like, I'm watching a movie made in this time period, and these things are going to happen. But, you know, when I get into, you know, more recent stuff, I'm like, okay, that's not okay unless we're setting this person up as the villain or someone who is going to die. And I if it was written in 98, yeah, that stuff was definitely like that 90s homophobia is definitely a reality. So that, I mean, that makes more sense. So, I mean, I'm glad that was put into context, but still.
But I mean, also, I mean, you look at like, you know, comedic classics like 16 Candles. Go back and watch that. I mean, it's just like, it is wildly inappropriate, some of the stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Mike, did you like this movie? What was that?
Well, at the end of the day, I didn't hate it. It was funny. I was entertained. But yeah, it doesn't break any new ground. As far as horror comedy goes, it's you know, it's not the best blend. I think it definitely leans more into the comedy than the horror. My biggest issue with the film is I felt like the concept of zombies at a prom was forced. I guess it's probably, was it even prom? I think it was just a dance. I don't remember. Oh no, it was prom. It was prom. It was loved ones that wasn't really prom. Was
Right.
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it was like
I know one of them was like, yeah.
It was a dance, but not necessarily prom.
Yeah.
It's because like we are over halfway through this movie and they haven't even acknowledged, after the zombie outbreak happens, they don't even acknowledge prom yet, and then all of a sudden they have this ingenious idea of going to save everybody at prom. Like, why is that now the main focal point of these group of kid survivors? So I felt like the whole concept of a zombie prom rather forced in this movie. Like, we got to get to the main theme of this movie, and I don't think they did a good job of it personally. But I mean, when they do get there, there's some fun gags, like the band can control the zombies, stuff like that. But I also think maybe there were some missed opportunities there using more prom tropes with zombie themes. At the end of the day, I didn't hate it, but it's not anything I'll probably go back and watch anytime soon, or maybe ever. And I'm a big fan of horror and comedy, and it's definitely more in my wheelhouse. But I definitely recognize it's easy to miss the mark on that mix. So
I'll tell you how weird it is, how quickly I've become accustomed to COVID life, because I'm watching this and I'm like, there's going to have potato chips out on the table. I'm like, oh, wait, that was like 3 months ago we could do that, and now we can't. And I'm like, they're all, it's just so weird. My mindset is already changed.
Oh, I know it. I can't remember what I was watching the other day. I was watching something and these two people high-fived and I had a panic attack. I'm not even kidding. It like freaked me out. Like, you guys high-fived. What are you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of before all this, and I need to chill the F out.
You're going to be real at home in Demolition Man.
Yeah. Oh my, yeah. Okay. So that wraps up the Attack of the Killer podcast prom. Thanks.
No one got me a corsage.
Aw,
Mike.
that was, damn it. I was going to say that was Jason's.
Are we going to post prom now?
Well,
Andy's buying the beer. That's all. I know.
the lame ass lock in at the school, or like the real party?
No, I actually, the only time I've ever gotten a ticket, but besides like driving violation, was my, I think it was my junior year of high school. I was hanging out with some friends during prom. We all did not get invited, so we all went to a friend's house and we were watching movies, and we fell asleep. And my one friend with a car was driving us home, and of course we get pulled over. And they're like, it's past curfew. And we were like, what is prom night? And they're like, well, you don't look like you went to prom. You have to be on this list to be out past curfew. I was like, so I'm getting ticketed because I'm a loser and I didn't get asked to prom. That's, bogus. And it was like, curfew here is like 12:30, and it was like 12:45 or 1 or something. It's pretty close. And so I'll never forget, because they call my mom and wake her up, and they're like, your son's out past curfew. And she's like, no, he's not. And they're like, well, city curfew is 12:30. She's like, oh, well, he doesn't have a curfew here at home, so please don't call my house and wake me up again. I know where he's at and he's not doing anything wrong. And like hung up on the cop. They're like, so we talked to your mom. She's sort of mad that we woke her up. My other friend that was with us, his mom was like, leave him out in the rain. I'll come down and pick him up. And he was in trouble. And it was a $90 ticket for being out late.
Oof.
Wow.
Yeah. And in high school, that's a lot of money. My mom was like, yeah, you're paying for that.
So why don't you just mug your ass while you're at it? Christ.
Okay. Well, now we're all adults, so we can stay out as late as we want.
Yeah.
Except for
right now.
Except for right. Because you'll fall asleep.
Okay, so yeah, that wraps up prom. See y'all at the after party. But that's not the end of the show. We're going to take a quick break and come back and do some segments here on Attack of the Killer podcast.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
And we're back. It's time for segments here on Attack of the Killer podcast, starting with Jason, and he's going to give us some shout outs.
It's time for shout outs! Shout outs! Shout outs! Shout outs! Shout outs!
All right, just ask what your favorite prom-related horror movies was. Over on our Facebook, we got Nick Leadham. He says, I can only think of Carrie and Buffy. I thought I had a number of them, but they're for college dances. Also, Cabin Fever 2 is kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought about that one, but we just did that. I was just thinking, no, we just did that one, but we did it like 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah, and I never want to have to watch that movie again.
Oh, I love Cabin Fever 2.
What?
It wasn't bad.
Okay.
It feels like a more awesome, gory version of Dance of the Dead.
Okay. Then we got our attacker, Andrew Moeller. He says, speaking of, he says Dance of the Dead. Good answer. Good answer. Then we got Tim Lennerer from the Fiasco Brothers. He says, got to go with Carrie for this one. The idea that your classmates are finally letting you have one single happy day only to find out it's part of a plan to hurt you worse than they ever had. That's the not-so-secret fear of everyone who grew up on the outs with the in crowd. Truth.
Yeah, if you say so. I don't know what that's like.
Oh, Mr. Popular.
That's right.
Randy Noel says, Carrie instantly comes to mind, but The Loved Ones is sort of in this category, I think, and I enjoyed it fairly well. Patty Forrest Johnson says, Carrie. Good one, good one. And Rebecca Reinhart from In the Mic of Madness says, hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Woo.
Right? How's 2 so much better than 1? It's crazy.
Fantastic.
So good.
2 is amazing.
Right?
But like I really like 3. I know it leans into the comedy way more, but I think 3 is a lot of fun. It's the Bud the Chud of the prom night.
That explains it. All right, over in the group edition. That's right. If you want to hang out and send memes and cool things, join our group over on Facebook. Mike Reeb, the Reebster, he says, Mike. Hell yeah. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2 is a newer personal favorite, but the prom queen will always be Carrie. Chris Anderson says, hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Good one. And our attacker, Peter Parker, he says, The Loved Ones for sure. Love the crazy, surreal vibe of this movie. So good. And then we have Carmen Marie D. Haig. She's cool because she just got one of our new t-shirts that are for sale. One of the things I was going to mention at the beginning of the show is by the time this is out, we'll have a brand new website up and you can go over there and pick up our new t-shirt. It's cool. It's black. That's all you need to know. She says, The Loved Ones, hands down. It was an emotional roller coaster. Oh, man, it's so true.
And you're just really emotional.
That's also very true.
That's also true.
You know me well. Over on Instagram, we got at 4 Foot Rod. That's Rodney Hutchinson. You remember Rod from Kansas City? He comes up to Halloween play.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. He says, I've been trying for a year to talk him into being a patron on Patreon. So what do you say, Mike? One last push?
Come Come on. Come on.
There it is.
Do
Come
it.
on.
Come on,
Do
Ryan.
it.
Come on.
Okay.
One of us. One of us.
The 4-foot rod says The Loved Ones and Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. And then there's some devil horns and a
Bit of a
heart
theme
sign.
going.
Yep. Maybe there aren't as many prom themed ones as we hoped there were. And then lastly, over on Twitter, well, not lastly, but over on Twitter, we got our attacker at GSIL84. Brian Godsill says, I have to go with Night of the Creeps. I also love Student Bodies. My favorite part happens during the dance. I said his keys, not his cheese.
I love Student Bodies.
It's so good.
I said,
That's a perfect job. I have that on Blu-ray. Can you believe that?
what?
I have it on Blu-ray. We need to break that out.
Two things.
Right, it's on Blu-ray.
Yes, exactly.
Another. Yeah. What?
I was gonna say we can do prom night too, because there's several that I think I need to see apparently from that little performance we just heard.
You definitely need to see Student Bodies, and we'll have Mike Rebon for that one. And
okay. So you remember Student Bodies?
Oh yeah,
obviously you got it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm a real fan.
Son of a. There's the part in the beginning. The first 10 minutes of the movie is worth the whole movie. I'm just telling you that right now. But there's that part, she keeps getting the obscene phone call, and then like the phone will ring and she'll answer it, and it's the guy, and then like she tries to ignore it, so the ring starts getting ridiculous, and the phone starts shaking, and then it just turns into one constant ring. My phone at work does that sometimes.
No.
Like, that's actually apparently a real thing that can happen.
That's a nightmare.
Exactly.
No.
Like, every once in a while, because we have two phone lines, and
one phone.
When they happen to, like, be ringing at the same time, the second line will just turn into a one constant ring.
You just wake up from a sleep and
then it's the breather from Student
you
Bodies.
wish it was.
Going,
And also on Twitter, we got our pal attacker Stefan S. At Olympios. He says, when it comes to that kind of theme, I instantly have to think of Carrie, but I'd rather take Jamie to the prom night. Very good answer.
Prom night.
And then lastly, we got Horror Movie Weekly at horror_weekly. Hey, it's Jay of the Dead here. I've got a great prom-related horror recommendation for y'all. I'll send you a voicemail. Well, guess what? He sent a voicemail. And let's listen to it now.
Yay!
Hi, Attack of the Killer Podcast. This is Jay of the Dead from Horror Movie Weekly. I saw on Twitter that you were asking for our favorite prom-related horror movies. And without question, mine has to be Dance of the Dead from 2008. It was directed by Greg Bishop. That's the same dude who did Siren from 2016. Anyway, Dance of the Dead is a low-budget indie zombie flick. Here's the premise. A zombie outbreak occurs near a high school prom, so when everyone at the dance starts getting eaten, the only people left to try to battle the zombies are the loser outcasts who couldn't get a date to the prom. Yeah, it has some comedy, of course, and I don't love comedy horror, but this movie has heart, like real heart, and some good gory, low-budget kills. So if you dig zombie flicks, then this is a must-see. For me, I'd call Dance of the Dead a 7.5 out of 10, and it is my favorite prom-related horror movie. Thanks for playing my voicemail, and this is Jay of the Dead, over and out.
Oh, Jay, thank you so much.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
And Jay, I just want to say congratulations for being called out on Joe Bob Briggs' Last Drive-In and your podcast winning the
Silver Bolo.
Silver Bolo Award. That's freaking awesome.
So cool, dude.
I am very happy and very jealous of you, sir.
Mm-hmm. And remember, anybody can leave us a voicemail like Cool Jay of the Dead. You can give us a call at 415-952-6857. That's also 415-95-AOTKP. And that's shout-outs.
Greetings.
This is Peter LeRae for Attack of the Killer Podcast. I've been brought here to introduce Insane Mike's Pigs, but if you don't remember me, I was in Casablanca, the Maltese Falcon, and I got shit-faced with Vincent Price in Tales of Terror. I was mentioned in 4 rooms with Quentin Tarantino. They were talking about the man from Rio. And when Quentin mentioned me, I believe he said something like, I was some sick fuck traveling the countryside collecting fucking fingers. As Quentin so eloquently put it. Anyway, I guess here's Insane Mike's Picks. And if he doesn't stop picking, it's never going to heal.
Thank you, Peter Lorre. You also forgot to mention the Looney Tunes cartoons that you were in. So
good.
Shut up.
So my Insane's pick for this episode is speaking of blind buys, a blind buy at one of the local pawn shops. It's a movie from 1988, a film called Out of the Dark.
Out of the dark, a deadly nightmare is emerging.
Another grisly crime strikes the City of Angels.
Joanne was killed last night.
Any prints?
Clean as a whistle.
Not a deep boys. He usually gets violent and then he hangs up.
Have you seen those girls? Don't you think he gets a little bit sexually aroused?
Talking about that spread on the girl. Should have been mine.
I want you to get me everything you can on this guy. I think he's a little too cool.
Dennis is violent, Kevin, and he's out to get you.
He was convicted of assault on an old girlfriend who also, by the way, happened to be a minor.
Stop it! Stop it! The killer. Did you see his face?
No. Like I told the police, he was wearing a mask.
We want to lure this guy to the office.
Forget it. Call me again. You know my number. Where'd you get these? Hello?
Hello. Who is this?
This is Karen. Who's this?
This is your friendly Dr. Bobo.
It's him. You killed her! I told you to stay away from my girl, but you couldn't listen to me!
Jeffrey Lewis, Cameron Dye, Karen Black, Bud Cort, and Tracy Walter.
Hello, LAPD.
Lieutenant Myers, Homicide Division, please.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant Myers is on vacation. Can someone else help you?
Out of the dark.
Out of the Dark. It's directed by Michael Schroeder, who has quite a few directing credits, including Mortuary Academy, which you can see in the background on the marquee of a theater in Out of the Dark. Now, what is Out of the Dark? Basically, a group of women who work at a phone sex line, which is run by Karen Black, is being stalked and killed by a psychotic killer in a clown mask named Bobo. This is kind of an erotic horror film, done with a little bit of tongue in cheek and comedy added to it. This was a pretty fun watch for me. What makes this movie stand out compared to a lot of other movies of its kind is some of the amazing cast that's in it, especially like some of the cameos that appear in this movie. You got Jeffrey Lewis shows up in this. I already mentioned Karen Black. Tracy Walter plays the main detective trying to solve the crime in this movie, and his performance is so freaking amazing. He's a real dick in this movie. It's awesome. And if you don't know who Tracy Walter is, he was Miller from Repo Man, Bob the Goon from Batman 89, Lamar in Silence of the Lambs. He's done so many things, and just to impress my girlfriend Brandy, he was Sheriff Walter Chefastich on Reno 911. It also has Bud Cort in it as a character that should have been named Red Herring. Paul Bartel shows up in this, and it's interesting that Paul Bartel also was a producer on this movie, and Paul Bartel also was one of the writers and was one of the actors in Mortuary Academy, Michael Schroeder's earlier film. So obviously had some kind of friendship or relationship with Paul Bartel. But also Divine shows up in this movie in one of his rare male roles. As a rival detective, and that scene is freaking awesome. Him and Tracy Walter going at it, and even Tab Hunter shows up, makes a small appearance in this movie. I had to double check just to make sure this movie wasn't made in like Baltimore, but apparently it wasn't. So it was actually made in Los Angeles. So it's nothing super over top, not a lot of gore or anything, definitely a lot of TNA going on in it. The scenes with Bobo are pretty cool or kind of fun. There's a scene where he's miming playing baseball in this open area. He's got a baseball bat and he's having this one of his victims pretend to throw a ball, and he hits the ball, and then he just comes up and like whacks her on the head and kills her. There's one scene that still confuses the hell out of me, where Bobo is stalking this girl. He calls her from this phone booth on another part of town, and while on the phone with her, Bobo is at her house, stalks and kills her. So I'm like, is there two Bobos? What's going on? It was so lost, and they don't ever explain how that happened when they finally get to the bizarre conclusion of this movie. I definitely feel like it's worth a watch, especially if you have if you have a liking for the whole kind of erotic detective drama films of the 80s. This is so 80s, it hurts. But that's it for Insane's Picks for this episode. Out of the Dark from 1988.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for it. It looked pretty fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely fun. I mean, it probably comes off more as a detective drama piece than maybe horror. But anytime you put somebody in a clown mask, I think that just instantly puts you in the horror category. Even if it's like, an episode of Bozo the Clown or something.
Worth $1.
Oh, definitely worth $1. Yeah. I was so excited once I saw the people that were in this movie. It was worth every penny. And I think I've gotten a whole new love for Tracy Walter because of this movie too. He's just so much fun to watch in this, and he's always such a unique character, but he's always in such smaller parts. Like Bob the Goon or whatever. Whether he's either not speaking or he's just an insane character. And all performances kind of come out the same tonally, but in his performance, but he's just captivating to me. So, but that's it, man. That's it for this episode of Attack of the Killer podcast. Thanks everybody out there for listening. Special thanks to the attackers for keeping the show alive. And also a very special thanks to our very special guest, Erica. Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Hey.
Hi. Thanks for being on. And you want to give one last plug for your show?
Sure. So I'm most active on Instagram, so you can search me there. Customers Also Watched. Also Letterboxd. And my username there is Also Watched, and that's my personal watches as well as the podcast stuff. So trying to get more people on there, but there's as of this recording, there's an episode coming out tomorrow with Jason and Mike as the guests. So be sure to check out that episode.
It's a doozy.
I got you to like a movie from like the 70s, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, that was a good trade.
Well, it's an easy sell for me, but yeah, Jason, maybe not so much.
I love the old stuff.
And I am dying to find out how you feel about the next one that I conned you into watching.
I just actually recorded that one too, so yeah.
It must not have been too bad because you're still talking to me.
That's true.
Yeah, no, it's exactly kind of what you said it was going to be. So,
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, you were right on the nose.
Well, first time for everything. That's good.
Wait, what?
Well, thank you so much for being on. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Had a blast.
And everybody out there listening, thanks again. We will talk to you very soon on the next episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast. Peace.
Oh no, could this be the end of? Attack of the Killer Podcast.